the beginning of November, starting on Saturday, to households across the state. So we know that about 850,000 people in Arizona participate in SNAP. 70% of them are kids, older adults, or people living with disabilities. And that funding, as a result of the federal government shutdown, is not going to be released.
Let's talk about, I mean, there's some people right now probably still not sure what SNAP is. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, SNAP is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It was formerly called Food Stamps, and it's a grocery purchasing program for low-income Americans. And it's the country's largest and most effective anti-hunger program. It's for low-income households that earn roughly $40,000 a year for a family of 4. And so it helps them stretch their budgets to be able to purchase groceries.
And what, like about 900,000 Arizonans affected here?
Yeah, 850,000 last month. We got that data recently, and that's about 430,000 households. And so these are folks who, if they're not kids, older adults, or people living with disability, they're working adults, right? Working 1 or 2 jobs, and SNAP helps them stretch their budget.
How many kids are affected? Do you know?
It's about 400,000, I think.
Yeah.
So this assistance from the governor is going to go a long way.
Okay, so, and again, this is all because of the government shutdown here. I think some contingency funds had been used, but they're stopping on November 1st. And there's some call for the United States government to be using more contingency funds here. Have you heard more about that?
No.
Yeah.
Short answer, no. But what I will say is that we would urge both Congress and the administration to use any resource available to them to ensure that not only Arizonans but people across the country are held harmless in this negotiation and are able to put food on the table.
The governor said she was counting on nonprofits to step up and be partners with this. It's a different dynamic with this additional funding, but it's still not, I mean, it's still not that federal funding. Can food banks, let's stick with food banks here, can you fill in the gaps?
Well, food banks are doing what they do best, which is more with less, but we know that in a month, about $155 million in SNAP benefits come through Arizona. So that's a typical month. So $1.5 million to assist food banks is wonderful, and we're incredibly grateful, but it's not going to fill that gap, obviously. So food banks are resourceful. They know what their communities need. But right now, what we're trying to do is make sure that, you know, they have enough to provide.
And as far as the food banks are concerned, what do they how are they expecting? How are they gearing up for that?
Well, it's an emergency food system, so they have the infrastructure and the experience to scale, and to scale quickly. So that's what they're doing right now. As of the information coming out from the state agency last week that that families would not be receiving these benefits, we've already seen a significant spike in demand. And so it's also important to keep in mind that demand was already high. So our food banks across the state were serving 770,000 people per month. And just for reference, that's about 60% higher than before the pandemic, and 30% higher than in peak pandemic months. So the cost of food is high. People are already struggling. Food banks are doing the best that they can to meet demand. To
meet those demands, will fewer people be served? Will hopefully the same number of people be served, but perhaps not as much food? How do you work that equation?
I know that food banks are preparing as best that they can, and they're working together to see if they can do some collective purchasing. They're trying to set up mobile distributions in parts of the state where SNAP participation is high. Will people get less? I can't say necessarily. We're going to do everything that we can to make sure that doesn't happen.
You referred to something here that I was going to ask about. Are food banks working together on, is this all hands on deck? No silos, everyone's working together?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that our website, azfoodbanks.org, people can go there and find food if they need it, find what's open near them. And our phone has been ringing quite a lot, and we're just trying to provide answers to people.
And you got Thanksgiving coming up. That's usually a crush, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I know that our food banks were already preparing for that, and we'll continue to do those holiday distributions that people have come to rely on. But in the meantime, we're going to do what we can to help them scale up.
And in the meantime, this $1.8 1.8 and 1.5 for food banks in particular, that has to help. That must have been a great feeling to hear that.
Yeah, it was absolutely much needed, and I think we're going to continue to rely on public support and private citizens. People really do want to help in times of crisis, and that's what we're in right now.
Do you need more from the state? Do you need the rainy day fund to be tapped in? I mean, it seems like it's kind of raining out there as far as folks who are on SNAP. But rainy day fund, you got some states are calling in the National Guard to help food banks distribute and all the. Is that kind of stuff down the road here? Would you like to see those kinds of things?
Well, I can't speculate on what the governor or the state are planning to do, but I can say that certainly any resources is welcome. I know that a lot of people have reached out to me and asked where they could donate either financial donations, food donations, or their time. And there's ways to find all of that on our website.
And again, the website is?
azfoodbanks.org.
All right, azfoodbanks.org. And Ashley St. Thomas, well, we're really glad you were here today because, I mean, goodness gracious, before the show, minutes before the show started, this information came down and it was good information, and we're glad we had you here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Chronic absenteeism continues to be an issue in Arizona, and new data shows that a certain group of students seem to be missing more school than previously thought. Reporter Roxanne De La Rosa has more.
Since the pandemic, chronic absenteeism continues to be an issue in Arizona. For the first time, the focus is on high school students, and the numbers are a little surprising. Advocacy group Helios Education Foundation released a new report at the end of September 2025 that looked at absence rates between 2021 through 2024. Helios Senior Vice President Paul Peralt shares what the data shows about high school students in Arizona.
It's went down a little bit to about 34%, but think about that. More than a third of every single student that's at school is chronically absent, meaning they're missing 18 or more days of school a year.
Peralt talks about which students missed the most school days.
Students that were in lower income schools, so high poverty, and we used free and reduced lunch as a proxy. If they had higher free and reduced lunch rates, those schools tended to have more students that were chronically absent.
The report found that students of color from low-income backgrounds had the highest rate of absences, with Native American students coming in at 53%, while Latino students came in at 39%. West Valley Carl Hayden Community High School principal Julio Rubio says last year, the absenteeism rate at his school landed at 61%. Rubio talks about the challenges his students face.
So we understand that our community, has different needs, right? And we know that there's different barriers that prevent students from coming to campus. Some of those barriers include access to healthcare, right? Some of that could be because of a low socioeconomic status. Many of our students have to work and support their families.
About 30 Carl Hayden staff members, along with Rubio, stepped in to mentor chronically absent students to meet with them on a daily basis for 6 weeks. The program included incentives like gift cards when students met their academic and attendance goals. Rubio shares an experience with one of his mentees.
So it was a $75 gift card for a shoe store. And my student won the raffle for that shoe store. And I was so excited, to see him, win that gift card because he wanted to get a new pair of shoes. And the first week of school, this school year, this kid came to find me and show me the new pair of shoes that he bought over the summer with the gift card that he won through ALAS. And again, it is the little things, that help our students to stay motivated and that want them to come to school.
The program was a success, with 93% of students meeting their attendance goals. Rubio plans to launch the program for a second year and shares what was behind the program's success.
Our middle name is Community. It is Carl Hayden Community High School. So we believe that it takes the whole community to support our students. That is why I also decided, to be part of the mentors that, will take on some of the students and help them, achieve their academic goals. Like I said, it takes everyone. And so we, at Carl Hayden, we all pitch in to support our students.
Roxanne De La Rosa reporting for Arizona Horizon.
And we follow that report with Read On Arizona, the state's early literacy initiative, which has developed the Arizona Chronic Absence Task Force with the goal of reducing chronic absence to pre-pandemic levels by 2030. And to learn more, we welcome Lori Matsur. She's the leader of the task force and the early learning director for Read On Arizona. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Chronic absenteeism, how is it defined?
Absolutely. So in the state of Arizona, for school accountability purposes, chronic absence is defined as when a student misses 10% or more of the school year for any reason. So this includes excused and unexcused absences and also includes suspensions.
Okay, so, but even an excused absence, I mean, I guess even if it's excused, you got a great reason, you're still not in school, are you?
You're still not in school, even if you have, a valid reason, but you're still missing key instructional time, even if that absence is excused.
What about kids who change schools in mid-year? Because I was reading up on this, and there's a kind of little question about that.
So what you're referring to is student mobility, and so when we think about that definition of chronic absence, currently in how we calculate that 10%, in the state of Arizona, it does not account for student mobility. So to your point, if a student moves from one school to another, that clock resets in terms of chronic absence. So they have a fresh slate and they're accruing new absences. So when
Interesting.
so when we think about student mobility, I can have a student at one school miss 9 days and come into another school and miss 11 days, and technically they meet the definition of being chronically absent, but they're not receiving some of those key resources and supports because they're not flagging at the school as being chronically absent.
Interesting. 10% equates to 18 days in a school year, and a study showed that for every day missed, it takes 2 days to catch up?
Absolutely. So research tells us that for every day a child misses, it takes 2 days to catch up. You have to think about that. If a teacher has to come in, they have their lesson plan, they're doing their curriculum, they're teaching, a student is out, they have to keep teaching the other students and then catching that child up. When we think about chronic absence, when we think about the point of when you have 20% or more of your students who are chronically absent, it's not only impacting the student who is chronically absent, it's impacting the entire class.
Yes, and impacting the teacher in the sense of continuation. You're teaching a class, you're kind of moving forward. You're not moving forward if you're stopping down all the time.
Well, you're constantly having to scaffold and differentiate to meet the needs of those students, and especially when they're missing those key instructional hours.
And those key instructional hours, when they're missed by especially the younger kids, that's especially impactful, isn't it?
Well, we see that chronic absence rates are high in the early years and the early grades. In particular, we see them be very high in kindergarten, and we call this inverted bell curve. We see that chronic absence rates are very high in kindergarten. They tend to go down right about third grade, and then after third grade, and as they're transitioning from middle school into high school, we tend to see those rates climb back up.
Yeah, and the impact on education for both ends of that inverted bell curve.
For both ends of that inverted bell curve, what we know from a couple of studies have come out, like the report stated. One was initially done in 2014 with Read On Arizona and Arizona State University, and we saw the relationship between attendance then. And what we saw at that point was that for every 1% that a school improved attendance, there was a 1.5% increase in ELA proficiency rates.
Isn't that interesting?
And we see some of that mirrored in the study that WestEd did in partnership with Helios Education Foundation.
Why are kids missing school?
That's a very loaded question, but we know that the reasons vary and they're often complex. But when we begin to look at the root cause behind why children are absent, they tend to fall into a few buckets. Part of that is barriers. So when we think about food and housing insecurity, when we think about safe environments, the other part of that is disengagement. Perhaps children are bored or something is too challenging. Another piece is aversions. There might be social anxiety or bullying. And then we also think about misconceptions. There's a misconception about a child being chronically absent in that 2 days a month isn't them being chronically absent, but we know that chronic absence is cumulative.
And again, it's more than just playing hooky. I mean, we're talking about a variety of reasons, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so you developed a resource guide, Read On Arizona. What's in the resource guide and how can that help families?
Absolutely. So in the resource guide, we talk about what chronic absence is, what it isn't. But in addition to that, what we talk about is what are some effective evidence-based strategies that can be put in place to support students. down from how do we create a sense of belonging at the school, how do we communicate effectively with parents around the importance of everyday attendance, what happens when they miss, but also some of those key targeted strategies of when we see absences begin to climb. When do we begin to do home visitation? If it gets so high, when do we begin to say, how do we begin to partner you with maybe some social impact service agencies? So we cover the gamut of this tiered approach of evidence-based strategies.
Where can people find this resource guide?
So absolutely. So you can find the resource guide on lithubaz.org. It's a literacy-based site that we launched in 2024 that talks about those evidence-based strategies, and it's available for parents, community partners, and educators.
Very good. Lori Masur, again, Read On Arizona. Great information. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, a look at the devastation Hurricane Melissa is wreaking in the Caribbean. That's at 6 on Arizona PBS.
A new book is out that provides a guide to navigating addiction treatment told through both a personal and professional point of view. The book is titled The Rehab Playbook, Demystifying Addiction Treatment, and the book's author is Jamie Vink, president of the treatment center The Meadows. Welcome to Arizona Horizon.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
Yeah, just recently, it must be great. Just seeing that book sitting there must be great.
It truly is. It's a gift.
It's and a labor of love for you. Demystifying addiction and addiction treatment. How is addiction mysterious?
So I've been in the addiction treatment business for 20 years. And I've always been fascinated by the fact that, and it's a statistic, that 1 in 10 people who struggle with addiction get treatment. And my goal was to write a book to really touch the other 9 who aren't getting treatment. And so there are a variety of reasons why people don't go to treatment.
Yes.
And I wanted to address them not only for the person struggling, but also for their loved ones, for their employers, for anyone that is in the world of someone who struggles with addiction.
So it's kind of a guidebook, correct?
Exactly.
And this is a guidebook from your personal experience.
It is, from everything that I've learned for 20 years, and I'm also a clinician. And from the first moment where someone wonders, oh my gosh, do I need help, to successfully completing treatment.
Why is treatment and recovery so hard to find?
So it remains elusive for a variety of reasons. First of all, people aren't clear what help they need. There's so many options now, and post-COVID, there's so many additional virtual services and all of that, and that's great. But folks don't understand what they need, and so something that I've done there is to really define the different levels of care available. The other thing is that people don't understand what their resources are and what's available through their insurance.
I was going to ask about finances and insurance. I mean, even in the best of times, that can be really confusing.
It can, and part of what I recommend is to sit down with your insurance card, make the calls, or have a trusted friend or loved one do it to find out what benefits are covered.
And once you get that done, once you get that information, once you get the foot in the door and you maybe have figured out this might be where I need to be, navigating the entire addiction treatment universe, that's got to be difficult as well. Do you address that here as well?
Absolutely. And I also talk about the stigma. There's a lot of stigma still out there about mental illness, about addiction, that somehow we're broken. And, the approach that I take is, we are not broken. It's not what we've done, it's what's happened to us.
Is that another, but you mentioned, it was interesting because when you were speaking, I thought about the fact that, okay, you've made these, you've gone through these hurdles and things, but you still have to trust someone. Is the concept of trust still, as you say, elusive?
Yes, because if you think about it, when someone goes to treatment, we are asking them to trust us before we've earned that right.
Yeah.
What's trust? Positive behavior over time. And we're asking them in the darkest moment of their life to trust us. And so something that I did as part of the book is I introduced 3 professionals that are in the industry, that are in recovery themselves, so that a reader can see where our hearts are, and that once you do make the decision to go to treatment, you will be greeted by people who've been there, who can speak your language, and also have devoted their life to healing.
Yeah, yeah. How do you get people who need this information, they really need this information, how do you get them to trust you? How do you get them to get that book?
So by talking to people like you, first of all, and also, the beginning of the book is very much about my own story and my family, and really building that trust. And I talk about my time as a therapist and wins that we basically had. The thing about addiction is that we can win against the opponent of addiction. It happens every day. People are out there living their best life. And so to really engage them with those stories of success.
I was going to say, it must be awfully good when people, the book's just been released, so you probably haven't had too much response, but any response from someone saying, this book really helped, that must feel great.
It really does, and for other professionals as well, because that's what I'm hoping, and that there's a contagion that they can give it to their clients who can give it to someone else.
And is there an overriding piece of advice? I mean, it kind of hovers over the entire book and every chapter. Is there something that people can take with them?
Yes, I believe that the message is hope, and hope has a game plan with this book, and that there are people out there that there's great people that have devoted our lives to the work, and people get better every day. So hope is the main message.
And you're donating a portion of the book's proceeds to the American Addiction Research Foundation, correct?
That's right. Yes.
So another reason to hope that the thing sells like crazy.
Absolutely.
Very good. All right, and you're out the Meadows in Wickenburg, right?
Yes.
Is a civilization starting to catch up to that place? Because it seems like it's growing out there like a
The
crazy.
urban sprawl is making it all the way to Wickenburg.
Well,
yes.
I'm sure it's still a special place. And Jamie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
and
you.
Congratulations again on that book.
Thank you.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Coming up tonight at 7.